This is an interview of Amelia Speight on May 29th, 2019 by Kate Stalker. Hi, Amelia. Tell us why you want to share your story.
The hardest question first. I wanted to share my story because I've lived in Monona almost my whole life, and I think I have a really strong relationship to the city as a city. I didn't think that when I got out of college I would come back here and stay for as long as I have, but something about this place specifically kept me here, and I just get more excited every day about the people who live here and the things that make this town special, I think.
That's great. What did you study at school? Where'd you go?
I went away to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I started college in 2013 and graduated in 2017, and I studied English with minors in theater and LGBT studies.
And you came back to Monona. Are you using that degree?
Well, I think a little bit. The great thing about being an English major is that it's really a degree in thinking critically, which I was already pretty good at, but I really like doing. And so I like to think that I do it both in my job here at the Monona Library and in everything that I do. I try to be a critical thinker and a close reader of the world around me.
Wonderful. So tell me about your role at the library.
I am a library assistant. I work on the front desk, which is basically a public service, customer service job, helping people get the things they need and answer their questions.
And when did you start working here?
I started working here, I started being paid to work here as a staff member in January of 2018, but I have volunteered here since I was in 6th grade.
Oh, my.
In 2006, it would have been the summer of 2006, I think was my first summer being what's called a junior volunteer, which is where you come in the summer and you sign people up for the summer reading program and you help with summer events. And I was a junior volunteer for a very long time. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked being at the library and helping people, participate in all the things we do here in the summer. And then in the course of that, a group got started called the Teen Advisory Board that I think started in 2009, but I could be wrong. And the Teen Advisory Board was teenagers who were advising the library or basically helping the library figure out what teen programs they wanted to do. So it was like by teens, for teens. And it was a really great group. Tony Streckert, who's currently the Adult Services Coordinator, was the teen librarian at the time, and she would help us facilitate these meetings where we got to kind of lead and tell her what we wanted to do, and she would help us figure out how to actually make that possible. So we changed some things about the teen section itself, and we would put up displays of different books and materials. And we did like a sustainability series. We did like a teen-led like sustainability resources, but also like workshop event things. The best thing that we did, and the biggest thing we did every year, was throw a Harry Potter festival called Potterfest. And at first it was 3 days, and then we shrunk it down to 2, and it would be over winter break, which is a very important time in the Harry Potter series because Christmas is always a really big thing in those books and like a really like wonderful time at Hogwarts. So it was cool that we did it then. And it was really awesome. We would get all these really nerdy teenagers together to plan it, and I would have like notebooks and notebooks of potential trivia questions for like our trivia contest. We had like a Jeopardy contest type thing. And we would have a costume contest one of the days, and people would dress up, and we would all the Teen Advisory Board members would bake things for the bake sale, like cauldron cakes and chocolate wands. We would make butter beer. We we had Wizard Rock bands come a couple of times, either for Potterfest or in the summer. Wizard Rock is a whole genre of music based on the Harry Potter books.
I did not know that.
Yes. And yeah, it was a ton of fun, and we all just got to like volunteer and give something back to our community, but also just make something that we really wanted to make and like celebrate Harry Potter every year, which was really wonderful.
And it seems like a really interesting way for the library to do outreach to teens, to allow them to live the books they liked.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, I'm like exactly of the generation that was absolutely fanatical about Harry Potter. And kind of we still are, you know, like I just actually am rereading the books now. I just finished the first one. And I thought that it wasn't going to hold up because sometimes when you read things as an adult that you loved as a kid, they disappoint you.
Yes.
It totally holds up. Huh. And it really did get me thinking about all the people who I worked with and all these like just cool kids who wanted to be, you know, there's something about Harry Potter specifically that it really steers you towards certain values. And so the kids I was working with, we all really wanted to be nice and generous and brave and, you know, and care about the world around us. So I think it was really great, yeah, to like bring teenagers into the library about something they cared about, but also we were kind of living the values of the books by trying to do something great and do it ourselves. That's like all, you know. I just reread the first one, but like when Harry and Ron run into the three-headed dog and they know that it's guarding something, they're just like, oh, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna solve the mystery and we're gonna do it. And so, yeah, it was great that the library and Tony really encouraged us to just do the things that we thought were cool.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. So my next question is to ask what some of your greatest accomplishments are, but I would guess that's probably one of them.
Yeah, that was a pretty great accomplishment, I guess. The thing about accomplishments is the things I'm really proud of I always did with other people. Like, it would not be fair to say that I did Harry Potter Fest personally. Like, there were people who were more passionate about it than I were, who gave a lot more to it, and we all did it together. Like, the only way it was possible was that we all did it together. But that was a pretty awesome thing. I don't know that I'm necessarily a person who thinks about accomplishments. Like, I wouldn't point towards certain moments. And I guess if you're asking about in my career, like here at the library, in my work, like the greatest accomplishment that you can accomplish every single day here is recommending a book to someone that it satisfies what they were looking for. Mm-hmm. And ideally they come back in like 2 weeks and tell you that they liked it. Mm-hmm. That matters more to me than I can't think of any singular event that I'm so proud that I accomplished that. I just like being able to answer someone's question or give them a book that I love and then them also love it.
How much do you read?
A lot.
Yeah.
I keep track of how many books I read in a year. And last year I read 75. And this year my goal is 75, but I think that I will read 100 books this year.
Wow.
And I mean, that kind of feels, yeah. I read a lot.
Then you're exactly the type of person who should be recommending books. What's been your biggest disappointment so far in your life?
I think I have a personal one and I have a larger one. Personally, I have type 1 diabetes, And so, like, whenever anyone asks a question that's like, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you, or what's the biggest disappointment in your life, I always go to that, because it's a disease with no cure. You live with it every day. It's really annoying. It's really expensive, although I don't have to worry about that yet as much, but it just is not a great situation to have. Mm-hmm. But I think that actually the thing that makes me feel disappointed most often is when people suggest that big change isn't possible, like societal change. When people suggest that things have always been the way they've always been for a reason, and we shouldn't even worry about changing them because it would be impossible. That is really disappointing to me.
Yes, that comes with age.
Yeah, and I'm scared of that.
Well, don't let it happen to you.
I won't.
Has your perception of community needs changed as a result of your time at the library?
Yes.
Can you tell us how?
Well, I think actually this is really interesting in the context of Monona, because Monona is the kind of town where you feel like you know everyone, but you don't know everyone. And you feel like you know what life is like here, but you only really know what your life is like here. And so I think that in some ways that feeling is really dangerous. I think it's dangerous for people to think that everyone shares the same experience living here. And I think that working on the front desk of the library, I've learned a lot about how different people approach the library specifically, and different people, what they need from their local library, which is very different than what I need from my local library. So it challenges your own bias and your own perception in a really big way. And I think it's helpful to be exposed to so many different people and to have real conversations. In the front desk of the library, you naturally get into some really serious conversations with people because sometimes they come in with really serious problems. And it's really helpful to be reminded that not everyone shares my experience, and that I hope that my community in Monona will be able to serve everyone, and that everyone's needs will be able to be met here. Even the people who maybe aren't as enmeshed in the politics of Monona, which is something that I'm pretty enmeshed in, or people who maybe don't even think of themselves as community members of Monona. I think it's important that the people who are building the structures that serve our community think of everybody, and not just the folks who have the time or capacity to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Do you see trends in community issues and needs?
I've only been back in town for a little bit of time, and when I was in high school, like anyone who's in high school, I was pretty much only concerned with what was going on in my world.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how can we talk about Harry Potter more often? But yeah, I think it's been too short of time to say trends. Not yet.
We'll come back in a few years and address that.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so switching gears a little bit, tell me about your history in Monona.
So I just have to say this because this is, like Harry Potter, a big part of my personality. Much like the fictional character Leslie Knope from the television program Parks and Recreation, I consider myself a Mononan, and I take that very seriously. I was actually born in Madison, just like Leslie Knope was born in Eagleton. So I was born in Madison. I lived in Madison for the first 3 years of my life, and then when my brother was going to be born, we moved to Monona, so that would have been in 1998. And we've lived in that same house the whole time. My parents did get divorced, so my dad lives in a condo in Monona now, but my mom and I still live in that same house. And yeah, so that means 20 years we've lived in Monona, and I'm 24.
Yeah, so tell me about your family.
So my family is my mom and dad, Sue and Chad, and my little brother Kevin, who is 20 going on 21, and our dog, Izzy, although in my childhood our dog was Ginger. And my parents, let's see, they're both very involved in Monona. My dad served on the city council up until this spring. I think he served for 10 years, 8 or 10 years. So that was something that was always like discussed at the dinner table, kind of like what was going on in Monona politically. And my mom similarly like served on the Monona Grove Education Foundation and now serves on the Monona Library Board of Trustees and the Monona Grove Charter School, MG21. She serves on the board of that. So, and that's just like the Monona things. Like they both do a lot of other things that are kind of community based, which is really cool. And definitely like instilled in me a sense that like if you have the time and capacity, you should serve and give back. And I actually just joined the Community Media Committee, which provides the public television and radio for the city of Monona.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
I just started. I've had one official meeting and one meeting that I went to learn. It's really interesting. I think that what I learned so far is that not every town has a community media presence, and we're really lucky to have that. We're really lucky to have public television, Monona specific. And the radio station, of course, is a newer blessing that people are still so excited about and is just so unique. But I think also the community media title lends itself to a lot more possibilities, and that's something that I'm excited about personally, of like how could we be a better service that really makes sure that all Mononans get information about the great public offerings we have. There's like this hidden gem attitude about Monona sometimes, like, oh, the pool. I used to work at the pool as well. The pool is a hidden gem, the library's a hidden gem. I'm like, what? Gems should not be hidden. Like if you're paying your taxes, like, and you live here, or if you live nearby, you should come and partake of the gems.
That's right. So other than reading and radio, do you have any other activities or sports, or just no time for anything else?
Well, I do have other activities. I also am involved in community theater, more in the Madison area at the Bartell Theater. I'm a stage manager, which is a specific skill set that I really enjoy using. It's dangerous, but I love it. And I also do that at Edgewood High School. I train student stage managers, which is really fun. And I mean, quite honestly, I do think to myself every time something comes up that I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I say, well, if you do that, you won't have as much time to read. And then I reconsider.
How about shopping? Do you have any favorite stores in Monona or anything from childhood you remember?
Ooh. Yes. I'm a big coffee drinker, so now, in the present day, I go to Rosie's a lot, I go to Crema a lot, I go to Java Cat a lot, because I like coffee. And, let's see. Childhood memories, I feel like a lot of Mononans would say this, but the bait shop is just down from my house, across from Schluter Beach. We could pretty easily walk there. And I do remember, like, in those middle years, like, when you're not a teenager yet, but you're old enough to go places, I remember walking to the bait shop to buy candy and ice cream. And that was just, like, a thing that we did all the time, in the summer especially. And then the pool, I also remember, like, the pool as, if you would call it a business, I don't know, it's run by the city, but that's like a place where I would also go to get snacks. I don't really like swimming, but I like snacks.
Oh, that's great. So tell me about your neighborhood. How has it changed in the years you've been here?
Well, I live on the north end of Winnequa Road. So our lawn, our backyard butts up against the monastery. So I think that's one of the biggest changes, that the monks have left the monastery in recent years, and we're kind of waiting to see what will happen with that property. To my knowledge, they still own it and are just figuring out what to do with it. Someone's managing it. I think our neighborhood has stayed relatively the same otherwise. We've had neighbors come and go, but something that I think about sometimes, we have this phone list on our refrigerator that's from my childhood that is it's the same piece of paper, it's the same font that my mom would use to make it. And back when home phones were more of a thing, she would update it, but it hasn't been updated in a while because we don't have a home phone anymore. So there's not really a reason for us to have a phone list next to a phone. Any phone number I have in my phone, and she has in her phone. But for some reason, we still have this list. And so something that strikes me is how many of those people are still living on our block and whose phone numbers are still up, even though they too probably don't have home phone numbers anymore, right? Nobody has a phone 222 whatever Monona number.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's also pretty sad, I think, but I'm happy that we still have it hanging up, even though it has no actual purpose. It's become more of an artifact than...
Yeah. Where did you go to school here? What schools?
I went to Maywood, then I went to Nichols, then I went to Winnequa. So it would have been Maywood K2, Nichols 3-5, Winnequa 6-7, and then I went to Glacial Drumlin for 1 year. I was in the inaugural 8th grade class at Glacial Drumlin. And then I went to Monona Grove High School 9 through 12.
What was high school like?
It was good. I was a very different person. I think that when you're in high school, you are trying to perform a little bit too much, so you have to pick who your character is. And then when you grow up more after high school, at least in my experience, so I was very much type A. I was class president. I was in Model UN and forensics and kind of the nerdier clubs. And I was, a high achieving person who took that really, really seriously, probably to my own detriment. Not that I regret it. I loved high school. I loved going to Monona Grove because I had a ton of opportunities to do things like that and to have leadership experiences. But I was definitely performing more so a character of someone who was really aggressively Hermione Granger-esque, type A. And then I went to college and that shell kind of fell away. And I think that I still have the best parts of that without the really annoying aggressiveness of it. I hope I've shed that.
Do you have some of the same friends now that you had then, or
absolutely
have they
do.
changed?
No, I absolutely do. I have a number of friends who I stayed in touch with through college who were from high school. And in terms of long-term Monona friendship, one of my friends, we met because our bus to Maywood, probably, maybe in first or second grade, instituted mandatory seating, and so we became friends because our stops were right after each other. So we've been friends for almost 20 years, my whole life. And then I have another friend. We became friends when she was in 8th grade and I was in 7th grade, and we were friends all through high school and all the way to now. We talk every day. And then I have a lot of friends who I didn't necessarily stay really tight with while I was away at school, but then I came back to the area and reconnected with them, and that's been really fun. It's really fun to see how much people change after high school. Whether folks went to college or not, I feel like everyone left high school and became a little more free to be themselves, and that's really nice.
Yeah. And these people, it sounds, stayed in Monona as well.
Some yes, some no.
Yeah.
I think I'm one of the only ones who's living at home in Monona, but a lot of folks are still in the Madison area at least, and still close. Yeah.
It's a hard place to leave.
Yeah.
So, do you have a family member or a friend who's been particularly influential in your life?
Yes, all of them. I firmly believe that you become most like the 5 people you spend the most time with, or whatever that people say. So I'm really careful about the people I spend time with.
Good philosophy.
Yeah.
How about a formative personal experience?
Well, I mean, again, the thing that changed me the most, formed me the most, was getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which was the summer after 8th grade. So going into 9th grade. I think that was about when I started working at the pool too. And that was really formative because, first of all, you learn when you're, I would have been 13. You learn that the world is really unfair because you're in the hospital for a week and none of your friends have ever had to do that, and they don't really have to worry about what they eat and taking their medication. Some do, of course, and I think one thing it helped me realize that there were people who weren't me who had similar problems, because that's hard to realize when you're young. But you learn that the world's unfair. That definitely shaped me. And it just pushed me to be more accountable for my full life and what do I want to do with my full life when you're in a situation where people are basically saying you have to do this or you won't have a full life, right? Mm-hmm. So that gets you thinking.
It must make you very responsible at a young age.
Yeah, I think in my case I was already too responsible at a young age, and so it actually was tricky because I had always chosen to be responsible and then I was forced to be responsible, and I don't like being told what to do. So it was definitely a roller coaster. Oh. But it was formative.
Yeah. So do you ever get together with your brother outside of family time?
Kinda. I mean, our family on both sides of our family, our mom's side and our dad's side, are very close and take a lot of trips. So the most time I spend with my brother is on trips with family. We go to quick trips sometimes now in the middle of the night when he's doing schoolwork and I'm just awake, or things like that. But I think we also just spend time together on trips, just the two of us. Because on my dad's side, we're older than our cousins. Mm. We're more young aunt and uncle to them, I think. They're really young. So we kind of are in our own little age group there. And everyone on my mom's side, my cousins are really close in age to us, so we're all 4 of us very close. We definitely have changed. We did not get along as children at all. We fought. My friends would be I hate going to your house because you just fight with your brother. Which I don't ever remember that now because we're both grown up and we don't fight nearly at all. At least not about things that don't matter.
Good. That must make everyone happier.
It does, yeah.
So what would you tell a person just moving to Monona today?
So this is a great question for me because I actually have this experience pretty regularly at the library. People will come in and come to sign up for a library card, and I'll say, "Did you just move to Monona?" And they'll say, "Yes." And I'll be like, "Let me tell you about Monona." So I always tell them that they made a good choice. They started at the library. The library is the first place you should go because our library is special. It's a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful building. Obviously, we have tons of interesting things that you can borrow, books and movies and whatever. But also we have like the Parks and Rec guide, and we have the Friends of the Library calendar that has all of our library programs. So it's a good place to get all the information about all the Monona things that go on. Other things I tell people, I encourage them to check out the pool in the summer, because I think the pool is also pretty unique in how it's set up, because you don't have to live here to go to the pool. You don't have to be a resident. And it's just a fun, like, well-managed place. It's special. The Parks Department also is just, like, in general, great. And they do a really good job of having cool programs and, like, cool events at the parks. Summer's a big time for them. They have, like, these beer gardens. They have movie nights. That's really cool. I recommend that to people. I'm trying to think what is hidden that I recommend to people. I think some of our parks are really, like, we have a lot of cool little pocket parks on the lake or on like the Yahara River that people should check out. The radio station too is something that I tell people about, because you wouldn't know about it unless someone tells you to listen to it. And I think in 2019, people aren't used to being recommended a radio station, right? Like, it's all about podcasts and streaming and that kind of thing. And this is like something that you can stream it online, but it's literally on the radio, right? And people are contributing to it every single day in Monona. And that's just kind of old school and fun. Really fun.
Yeah, it's a great radio station. So you're kind of young to think about this question, but what is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
About me? Oh my gosh. I have honestly no idea.
That's fine. You will when you're 60.
I'll steal something that I recently heard on a podcast. The poet Ross Gay, who wrote this incredible book of poetry called Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude. He said that something that he's a poet and he writes about death kind of a lot. And he said that something that's kind of great about death is that the things that were really annoying about you as a person become charming. And so he said that he hopes that when he dies, people are like, it was so cute how he was late all the time. But I think that I would want people to remember things that annoyed them or that they found funny or didn't find funny, but make them funny. Whatever it is, I want it to be funny.
Okay, good enough. Do you have any other stories you'd like to share?
I feel like I should have like a really great Monona story because I've lived here for so long. But like, I'll just say that when I think of Monona, like when someone's like, what was it like to grow up in Monona? Or like how I define that experience is being on my bike and biking from my house to what I call like the city center, like the heart of Monona, which would be like the library, the city hall, community center, and the pool, and Winnequa Park. And I'm biking either to the library to be a junior volunteer or to the pool to work at the front of the pool, or, to a friend's house or to the bait shop or something like that. And like, it's the perfect weather and there's no sidewalks, which is super annoying, but I'm biking and like, just like being able to be a kid and independent and do these things that were my things, once you're old enough to go off on your own, Monona had so many opportunities for me in the community and in the schools to just pick what would define my life for that time. And I think that really shaped how I think about my life now. Even if I weren't living here, I think I would still want to have that same feeling about my life, that I'm on my bike and can go wherever I want and do whatever kind of thing I want. And yeah, and contribute something, but also get something in return.
That's wonderful. Well, Amelia, thank you very much for talking to us today. I'm sure that it will enrich the lives of everyone who hears it in the future. Thank you.